Hello Taurus, and welcome to my channel Tarot by Gabrielle. This is going to be a general reading for Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus placements, looking at your connection between you and the person that you are dealing with and are needing to learn the most from right now. We'll be pulling for all three sides of it, so we'll look at your energy, their energy, and the energy in between it, the concept being that there are three sides to every story. So we're looking at your version of the truth, their version of the truth, and this higher level unbiased truth in the middle. This middle section is looking at what is the deeper purpose of this connection and the best way for you to move forward in order to align further with your higher self. Friendly reminder that these are general readings and they are not here to resonate fully for everyone, and they won't resonate fully for everyone. So do please remember to take what does resonate and helps your personal situation and to leave what does not. On that note, and especially if you're a cross watcher, just know that this whole reading can be reversed. If that is the case for you, that is totally fine and totally normal. Again, the point is to take what helps and leave what doesn't. Last thing is that any information on the extended reading or on booking a personal reading or coaching session with me is in the description box below. All right. Taurus, let's jump on in. As always, we're going to look at overall energy through oracle cards first, and then we'll dive deeper into the story with tarot as we progress. So let's start, Taurus, with your side of this connection. Taurus's energy toward the person they are dealing with. Shattered. Let down expectations. But more than that, let me see. What else does Taurus have for their side of this connection? Grief and sadness. So there's a lot of heaviness around your current energy toward this connection. The shattered card typically means, there were certain expectations or you had certain ideas about who somebody was or where a connection was going to go, and something happened to kind of shatter those expectations. It can also represent like a shattered illusion in some type of way too, where maybe you saw somebody through like a certain lens of who you thought that they were, and then things kind of changed. Maybe true colors came out, or you saw things clearer in some sort of way. And I feel like there's a lot of grief around this, a lot of grief of, trying to make sense of what was real, what was not. Like this is heavy. And I think that right now, what you're probably needing the most is a little bit of clarity, because I think when things are really heavy, and our insecurities start coming into play and our fears start coming into play, we start seeing things in a little bit of a warped way, where everything that we see is through the lens of like, oh, they never cared, or, I'm super unlovable, or, they thought that I deserved this, or whatever the case is. And I feel like there's a lot more to the story than that. This person's energy toward you, Taurus. Person's energy toward Taurus. Communication. So something that they said or didn't say. I feel like it almost feels like you haven't gotten a whole lot from them. And so you're trying, and then divine timing here, you're trying to make sense of like everything that happened. And I feel like you're trying to do it from this place of like, not really knowing how this person feels or like where they're really at. I feel like this person doesn't communicate well. It doesn't mean that they don't talk, but communicate their feelings or their intentions or their truth in a lot of way. This divine timing kind of gives this energy of things being very unaligned. It's almost like never being able to find the flow of the connection. And I feel like a big part of that is because this person holds back a lot. Now with this connection card, I do feel like this person feels and values their connection with you. Now, I don't feel like it seems like that at all based on how they've acted and maybe certain things, again, that they've said or didn't say. And I think that you're trying to, it's like you're trying to read their mind, because I feel like you're not getting a whole lot from them. Because yeah, I kind of feel like this person, I don't know if they're very withdrawn or if they're not honest in their communication. I don't necessarily know, but I can tell that something's very off coming from their side here. So I don't necessarily know what happened, but I do feel like there's just, I feel like there's this energy of you feeling very blindsided in this, Taurus, and like trying to make sense of things, but doing so without really receiving much information from them, which probably feeds more into like the insecurity and the fear and the like, oh, like I never meant anything to them, like things like that. Like that's what I really feel from this energy. Truth of the connection between Taurus and this person. Truth of the connection between Taurus and this person. Confusion. And that's exactly what I feel. It's almost like I feel like you're confused about a few things. Like, why did this happen? Why was this person brought into my life? Why did they do these things? What are they feeling? It's like, I thought that they were this kind of person, but they ended up being like this. I thought that they felt this way, but they ended up being like this. And I feel like it's almost like you don't know what to think or feel. But I do feel like there might be a lot of kind of jumping to worst case scenarios, which I think typically happens when, we're in situations like this. Like, of course, we're going to see things through the lens of fear and insecurity. Of course, we're going to fill in the blanks in our mind when somebody isn't communicating or being vulnerable with us. And I think that that's feeding into a lot of stress for you. Okay, there's manipulation and there's separation. So there's something, I feel like you feel manipulated. I feel like you felt like there was a bit of a bait and switch. Like they pretended to be somebody or to promise you all these things and then really like switched up on you in some way. And yeah, there's a lot of confusion. It goes back to like trying to make sense of what happened. Confused about them and what they really meant and what was real and all of these things. So this is, I knew it was going to be heavy the second I saw this energy, but it's definitely a heavy reading here. All right. Overall theme of this reading between Taurus and this person. Someone better. I'm getting this as like you thought that they were someone better. This is crazy heavy. I want to know what happened. I don't know if there was betrayal or if there was like maybe betrayal. I didn't take that card because it didn't feel like it was meant to come out. I like when they turn all the way around or hit the table like that. We outgrew each other. Feelings are mutual. Okay. I feel like you jump back and forth a lot in this energy where it's like, oh, they care about me and I care about them too. Like I'm so angry and I hold, so much frustration towards this connection. Like I just wish that it had never happened. And then it's right back to like, oh my gosh, but I still love them and I still care about them, to like, oh, but I don't want to. And I feel like this is, this like flip-floppy back and forth energy is really hard. With this feelings are mutual card, I do feel like this person like cares about you. I don't feel like the things that they did is any indication of how they feel about you. And that's very rarely the case. Usually people's actions and decisions and behavior toward us has nothing to do with us and everything to do with them. But I feel like that doesn't excuse behavior, and that doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. But I do feel like Spirit is trying to draw your attention to understanding this in a different way. I don't know. It feels like this is one of those connections that, came around and kind of promised you the world. Maybe not the person, but like the potential that you saw. It's like you felt that this was it, that this was going to grow into something to be so much more than what it ended up being. And I think that that's where it's like you're grieving the person that you wanted them to be, or like the person that you thought that they were in some way. And of course that's going to be confusing. It's going to be hard to make sense of any of that. My goodness, Taurus, this is heavy. I don't know what you guys are going through here. Taurus decided this connection to the person they are dealing with. I don't know. Page of Wands. Is that supposed to, no? It was the King of Wands, but it didn't feel intentional here. The Queen of Wands, oh, that was weird, okay. The King of Wands, what the heck? I feel like this is one message. So you could be dealing with a fire sign, Leo, Aries, Sagittarius, but I feel like there's more to it than that. I mean, having the Queen, King, and Page of Wands, especially coming out in an earth sign reading, is really interesting here. The Ten of Swords. So yeah, some sort of betrayal, some sort of something here. Ten of Cups. It's like the Ten of Cups to the Ten of Swords. The Eight of Cups. King of Pentacles. In reverse. Give me just a second. High Priestess with the Tower here. Okay. Okay. So there is this feeling of some sort of betrayal. Some sort of feeling like what you saw as the Ten of Cups, what you saw as something that essentially was like your wish fulfillment, ended up being this Ten of Swords. I can't stop looking at this Queen of Wands. I feel like one of the things that's the hardest about this connection is I do feel that you really tried to do everything in your power to make this work, to be what you felt that this person wanted, to show up in this truly in the best way that you could. And then so when the Ten of Swords happened, it was like an ultra betrayal, because I feel like you were like, I don't know what else I could have done. I don't know how much what else I could have given. And I feel like there was so much, because I feel like this Ten of Swords affected not just this connection, but maybe like your life in general, things outside of this connection. And I think that is why this has been so hard for you, is because if essentially you're saying, I gave this my best shot. I showed up in the best way that I could with love and compassion and understanding. And I'm not saying you were perfect, okay, because we all make mistakes, but in the majority of the way, I feel like you were like, I really gave this the best that I could. And then they turned around and did this, which has you starting to go, well, does that mean that what I have to give isn't enough? Does that mean that I'm not enough? Does that mean that, if I'm going to show up in the best way that I can and it still isn't enough, and that still leads to someone doing this, does that mean that, this is just what I deserve? And maybe it's like you don't realize that these things are happening. Maybe there's a lot of anger toward this person, a lot of frustration toward them. And that's what I'm kind of getting with the King and Queen of Wands, is there's a lot of fiery energy here where you're like, I cannot believe this happened. But one of the things that I always talk about is that there's always something more underneath anger. There's some sort of grief, some sort of a sadness, some sort of a wound there. And we typically try to bury it with anger because anger can be easy. It's not fun, but it can be easier. And I feel like Spirit's asking you to peel back the layers a little bit and to look deeper at what really went down here. And it's not necessarily saying that, this was your fault or anything like that. But I do feel that there was, and I almost feel like you are feeling that way in some way, like, oh, this is my fault, or this is like something that I deserved. I don't know. And maybe up top you're like, no, I didn't deserve this, and I know that, but then deep down it's like, maybe I did. I don't know, especially if this is something you've experienced repeatedly, like a betrayal or an abandon that keeps happening. It's going to start to have you questioning your worth. And even if because there is a separation here that's very obvious, and I feel like it's just been incredibly difficult for you to move forward from this, because specifically I feel like you're like, why, if I put everything I have into something and it still isn't enough, then why even try? Why, and of course you're going to feel that way, but I feel like Spirit is asking you to shift your perspective a little bit. I don't know, there's a lot to peel back here. There's a lot of layers to this that I feel is trying to be brought forth. Interesting. Okay. I don't know what's going on here. This person's energy toward Taurus, divine timing with communication. What the heck? Queen of Wands again. Queen of Wands, Knight of Swords, Seven of Pentacles in reverse. And you definitely don't have to be dealing with a fire sign, but I feel like there's so much fiery energy here. A lot of passion, maybe a lot of anger too. Not necessarily coming from this person. I just mean like in general, in this connection, I feel like there's a lot of frustration here. Oh, this is classic. The Queen of Wands is always someone to me that's very compassionate, that's very caring. Oh, I get why. So you had the Queen of Wands and the King of Wands, and this person just has the Queen of Wands. And the Queen of Wands to me is about like the feelings and the energy, like compassionate and understanding and empathetic and like deeply cares. And the King of Wands is about acting from that place. The King of Wands is all about action. The King of Wands is about showing up in that energy. And so I feel like that's what this is really saying, is like you had a lot of love and care for this person, and I feel like you really showed it. And maybe even you still do. It's like you showed that. You showed up in it. You showed up in that honesty and the commitment. It's like you made it seem, you made it known as if this person cared about you. This person didn't do that. There was no action there. Now, that didn't mean that the feelings weren't there. I feel like their actions and the things that they did actually went against how they really felt. especially with this Knight of Swords energy, because this Knight of Swords energy is a lot about running and pushing away things, or specifically in this context, I feel like it's about like rushing to decisions, rushing to emotional decisions. And the Seven of Pentacles in reverse, like all about a lack of commitment. And I feel like what happened is this person struggles on some level with commitment and vulnerability. I feel like, and I kind of said this at the very beginning, I feel like they're not fully open and honest about, how they really feel. And I don't necessarily think that that's from a place of, trying to, I feel like it's from a place of self-protection. I mean, with the Strength in reverse, this person doesn't feel good enough for you. And that's what's really interesting, is I feel like you're like, well, they made me feel not good enough for them because of the things that they did. But they don't feel good enough for you. They hold a lot of feelings of not being able to be what it is that you need. And I think that they acted on a lot of those feelings. So when I said this is classic, it's self-sabotage is what it is. What it comes down to. I feel like this person felt a lot of strong things in this connection. And I feel like they felt the same exact things that you did. I do. I really, truly feel that. I believe that. But I feel like that those insecurities started to kick in. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough for Taurus. I can't be what Taurus needs me to be. Instead of stepping up and figuring out how can I be more, like how can I be what Taurus needs? How can I, make sure that I'm, showing up in a way that, so that I can sustain this. Instead, they hid from it. They ran from it. They pushed it away. And I feel like they communicated none of this to you. I feel like, and that's where I was kind of getting at from the very beginning, is I feel like you were reading into a lot of their actions. And the things that they did and the decisions that they made in this connection, or things that they didn't do, made you feel as if they could not care less. And of course you're going to feel that way, right? And yes, I do believe that actions speak louder than words, but I think actions don't necessarily always show how somebody feels, but they do show where somebody is at, like emotionally and in terms of like growth and their capacity to give and receive love in a healthy way. And I think that that's where their spirit's trying to help you understand that the things that this person did are not okay. All right, I don't know what happened. Ten of Swords, betrayal, some sort of like abandonment. I don't know. The things that this person did were not at all coming from a place of malicious intent. That doesn't excuse them, but I think that might help you as you process and heal from this, because it might help you understand that their decisions and their actions and their behavior didn't have anything to do with you. It's not because you're not good enough. It's not because they didn't love you or care about you. It's because of their own stuff. I used to be in somebody who is very unhealthy in a lot of my relationships. And I'm actually very grateful that I was that person, because it taught me how to be healthy in relationships. But a lot of the things that I did, pushing people away and sabotaging connections and all of the things that I didn't recognize in the moment, but that I can see very clearly now, all of those things were coming from a place of me trying to protect myself from intimacy, from me keeping people at a distance, so that I didn't have to experience heartbreak. And it was, it's interesting, right? Because it's like I didn't want to experience heartbreak, so I pushed people away and I kept them at a distance until eventually my heart was broken because the connection didn't end up working out. And it was kind of like this self-fulfilling prophecy. I didn't feel good enough for love. I didn't feel good enough for the people that made their way into my life, and I had to work on that stuff. And that was not something that somebody else taught me how to do. I had to address those things. I had to learn how to love myself well so I could love others well. I had to learn how to show up better for myself in relationships so I could show up better for others. And when people, don't do these things, I think a lot of times we jump to the conclusion of like, oh, they don't care about me, or they do these things intentionally, or whatever the case is. And I think that it's important for you to know that, not because I'm trying to give this person a pass. I don't feel like Spirit is like, oh, just forgive them, they didn't mean it. I feel like Spirit is trying to bring this forth for you so that you understand that this was not a reflection of your value, of your worth, or even what it is that this person felt you brought to the table. I feel like they had the same feelings that you did, but they had absolutely no idea how to handle those emotions and how to handle those feelings. So instead of committing to the work, they decided to self-sabotage, to run away from it, to push it away, to avoid it altogether. And if somebody isn't honoring their own emotional experience, they're not going to honor yours. So the reason that you probably didn't get any communication from this person, or that their communication wasn't like, didn't really make sense, or it was very surface level, or whatever the case is probably because they have no idea how to process and understand what they're truly feeling. People who react from very emotional places without looking below the surface aren't going to be able to look you in the eye and say, oh, I sabotaged this connection because I don't feel good enough for it. Because if that self-awareness was there, and if that willingness to work on themselves was there, and maybe they did say those things, but if the willingness to work on those things were there, then they would have addressed them so that they didn't sabotage the connection in the first place. But I feel like they didn't do those things. So I get why you're confused, because their actions completely went against how they truly feel. But I also feel like it's important for you to understand that their decisions and behavior had nothing to do with you. Now, on the flip side, our relationships are always a mirror. And every single relationship that we have with another person is showing us a facet of our relationship with ourselves. And when we start to look at things from that way, we can start to figure out what we need to heal within us so that we can find ourselves in healthier relationships and healthier spaces. And again, I'm not blaming you or saying this is any of your fault, right? But if we want to stop repeating cycles, especially of like betrayal or abandonment, we have to look at the things within that lead us into those cycles. And I feel like that's a lot of what this connection is pushing you to do, is helping you see things from a different perspective. You know, I was in I talk about this a lot on this channel, but I was in an emotionally abusive relationship like 6 or 7 years ago now. And this relationship was one of the worst things that ever happened to me, and also one of the best things that ever happened to me, because this relationship, reflected in me a lot of my relationship with myself. My relationship with that person was a reflection of what I believed that I deserved. And I don't say that from a place of blaming myself for putting up with it or anything, because that's not where I'm coming from. But I had to look within and ask myself, like, this person talked to me in ways that I spoke to myself. This person treated me ways that I treated myself. This person showed me the kind of love that I believed I was worthy of having. And when I looked at things from that perspective, instead of pointing fingers and saying they did all of these horrible things to me, I got to say, okay, yes, that is true. But that didn't help me heal. The anger and the frustration toward them didn't help me heal. So I started looking at the mirror and I started asking, so what are these things showing me within me? Well, they're showing me that I don't value myself that much, that I don't believe that I'm deserving and worthy of love, that I believe that I'm deserving and worthy of mistreatment, that I believe that I'm unlovable and worthy of betrayal and abandonment. Like, all of these things helped me kind of address these woundings within myself, which ultimately led me to the healthy relationship that I have now with my husband. So I feel like Spirit, and I'm bringing that through, not to say this is your fault that this happened, but to tell you that there is still hope for you when it comes to love and relationships. And the things that have happened to you to this point in your life and in your relationships are not a reflection of what you deserve or what you're capable of having, but they might be reflecting back at you what needs to heal so that you can, have those relationships that you deserve and desire. Because, a lot of times when we believe that we're broken, when we believe that we're not deserving of love, or that there's something inherently wrong with us that makes us unlovable, we're going to attract broken people. We're going to attract people who haven't done the healing, who haven't done the work, and we're going to find ourselves in relationships that almost prove I'm unlovable, I'm undeserving, I can't have what I have, or I can't have what I want. And then we start to tell ourselves that just means that I'm going to be alone forever and I'm not meant to experience love. And granted, if you don't want to experience love, like, that's fine. I'm not saying you need it, but if you want it, it can happen for you. And I feel like Spirit's trying to shift your perspective on this connection a little bit to look more from a place of like, this isn't about, their reflection of my value, because they got their own stuff going on, but, looking at, so how can I heal from these woundings to lead me to healthier connections. I hope this is making sense, but I'm going to hop on over to the extended. We're going to look at confusion with manipulation, diving deeper into this connection, answering the question, what do you need to know right now in order to move forward in alignment with your higher self? And then just looking at the deeper purpose and bringing forth more clarity. Any information for that is in the description box below. Thank you so much, Taurus, as always, for your support of my channel. I do obviously hope that this reading helped and resonated with you in a way that you were needing today. And as always, I wish you nothing but love and healing and all of the wonderful things that you deserve and desire on your journey moving forward. All right, bye, Taurus.